So workplace 30, this is a chapter 5 review. I'm just going to go over a few really important points really quickly so that you know what you need to study tonight for the exam. And we start off chapter 5 with triangles, talking about right triangles, and this is a bit of a review. So one of the things that a right triangle has a 90-degree angle in it, right? And one of the things that we can do with a right triangle is use the Pythagorean theorem. And so you guys all know that one, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is the hypotenuse, okay? So Pythagorean theorem, important piece number 1. We used that. We also used SOHCAHTOA, okay? So you remember the memory mnemonic SO, CA, TOA. With right triangles, you can solve for missing sides or for missing angles using SOHCAHTOA. For example, in this triangle right here, if we wanted to solve for W, I could use this angle and this side, and I could use one of these trig functions. According to this angle, this 4.2 is the adjacent side, and this W is straight across from the 90 degrees, so it's always the hypotenuse. So which one has A and H? That is cosine. So you could use cosine of 41 degrees equals 4.2 over W, and you could solve that equation for W. So SOHCAHTOA is second most important thing that you need to know here. And you could, of course, solve for the angle too. So this one has opposite side and hypotenuse, and so with opposite and hypotenuse, that's the so we use the sine. So you go sine of the unknown, which in this case would be E, equals 2.8 divided by 3.9. And in order to get E, you use the second function on your calculator, right? So you have a sign there, and you'll have a sign to the -1 or something like that as an alternate function. So with this one, what we need to do is we need to do second function sine of this ratio here. 2.8 divided by 3.9. And what do we get? 45.88. And that will be your E. 45.88 degrees. Okay? So you got to make sure that your calculator is in degrees, not radians. Okay, when you do this, so your calculator might have a little D or a DEG. Make sure that's on your screen, not an R or an RAD or something like that. Okay, so SOHCAHTOA. If you guys have any questions, just you can flag me down here. But the next thing, so the third most important thing here is being able to identify triangles by angle measure. I noticed in that review that a lot of you weren't able to do that. Or it was too general, so we'll talk about specific stuff later. But an acute triangle, all angle measures are less than 90. That's an acute triangle. A right triangle has one 90-degree angle, and of course the other ones must be acute then. Obtuse is a triangle that has one angle that's greater than 90, between 90 and 180. Okay? And the other side, of course, will be, the other two angles will be acute. Also, classifying with relation to side length is also important. You need to know how to do that as well. So if you have a triangle that has all three sides the same, that's an equilateral. Remember, lateral will be sides, equal, that's from the root equal. Isosceles, that one has two identical sides, isosceles. Scalene, all three sides are of different length. Okay, so that's also very important that you know about that. All right, so moving on here. Okay, so part 2 here, we did some more work with solving triangles and that sort of thing. Okay, these were some questions that you had worked on. 5.2, this is when we talked about transversals. So a transversal is a line that cuts two other lines, and if those two lines are parallel, we have some really special relationships, right? We have corresponding angles being equal. So for example, number 2 and number 6 would be corresponding. And so number 6 is 75 as well. 1 and 2 are supplementary. So if 2 is 75, number 1 is 180 minus 75, or 105. 2 and 4 would be equal. 4 and 6 are equal. 3 and 6 would be supplementary. So when lines are parallel, cut by a transversal, the pairs of angles are usually equal or supplementary. Okay, they're equal or supplementary. So that's easy to remember. All right, skipping down to this chart. Do you remember this chart? This is where you need to state your answers in detail, again from that review. Some of you said, oh, what do you have? Oh, I have a parallelogram. Well, what type of parallelogram? You need to be more specific. Is it a square, a rhombus, a rectangle? Be specific. Or even a trapezoid. Remember, there are different types of trapezoids. A right trapezoid that has 2 right angles, or an isosceles trapezoid. You could have some of those. So be as specific as you can on your test when you're asked about a shape. Any questions about this page here? All right. Just flying through here and looking. I'm not sure if what I need to pause on here. If you're asked to determine angles or side lengths, try and show your work as much as possible, or give your reasoning. Okay. So I also noticed on your reviews that some of you didn't give reasoning. This was one question on the build your skills that a lot of you got wrong here. The question was, how can we? What has to happen for CD, that kind of bar right there, to be parallel to EF? What has to happen for those to be parallel? And yeah, I got a variety of answers, but the right answer was, well, this angle right here, okay, needs to be the same as this angle right here. If they're parallel, the alternate interior, that's what those are called, those should be equal. And so you would either say this E has to come up so that this angle down here is 41, the same as this, or this has to go up a little bit so that this angle is 43, the same as this one. So you have to kind of describe that. So we should have a situation, right, where this angle and this angle are exactly equal if those 2 bars are parallel. And right now they are not. Okay? So that what adjustment needs to be made? And it was specifically about this angle, I guess. So you'd say this angle has to be increased to 43 degrees. So questions like that you should look forward to being on your test. Finding area of things like areas of a triangle, area of a trapezoid that you learned before. Those, you need to remember that stuff there as well. Okay. 5.3, we talked about regular polygons. Okay, a polygon, first of all, is a closed figure with 2 or more, or 3 or more sides. And a regular polygon is has all the sides the same length and all of the interior angles the same length. And so it's important to note here that this is really important, right? The sum of all the interior angles of a regular polygon, or really of any polygon, is 180 times n minus 2, and n is the number of sides. So you should remember doing this activity where we did all these different kind of shapes, we split up the triangles and all that sort of stuff, found the sum of all the interior angles. So you need to have that one on your ready for the test. And if it's a regular polygon, right? If it's a regular polygon, that means all the sides are the same, so you take the sum, and so if it's 180 times n minus 2, and to find the size of each individual angle there, you would just simply divide that by n. So that's the size of each individual angle if we have some kind of regular polygon. So if this represents a regular polygon, which is pretty close, eh, this flower, then each angle here would be, this is 5 sides, so it's 180 times 5 minus 2 divided by 5. And that's what you'd get for the size of each angle there. So that's also very important. So each angle in a regular polygon size measure is given by this one right here. Stop me if you think you have a question. Yeah, so anything else that you guys think that I've missed that you think we should mention here for a review? Okay, so you need to know what each of these are, whether you jot that down in your cue card if you have one, or whether you just spend some time memorizing that. Please memorize each of these and know what they're about, okay, know what they look like. Name the shape, okay, be specific. Don't say it's a quadrilateral. Don't even say it's a parallelogram. Say it's a rhombus if these are all the same length, right? So be as specific as you can. And then, yeah, this is one you guys are just doing your corrections on this one right now. Okay, so that's the little review for Chapter 5. Do you guys have any questions about Chapter 5?